Mercedes, wide chip, Ricky.
Zebra left, 75, Katie, Omaha. We're good.
The Sleeper Wire Pro-Am is back.
It's time to go eat, baby. Let's eat.
This is our third season and the biggest one yet. We had 2 leagues last year and we're looking to double that this year. You, the listeners, get to play in a real fantasy football league with pros and shows from around the industry. Last year we had a great roster. We had Marcus Grant, Jake Seeley, Matt Harmon, Sleeperbot, the Fantasy Football Fellas, Eat Sleep Fantasy, and many more. And we're expanding that to include more pros and shows than ever.
Stop talking about it, man. Let's get this going right now.
Visit www.sleeperwire.com/pro-am for more details.
I'm ready for us.
Welcome to the most interactive and only charity fantasy football show where our multi-time, multi-league, multi-year champions are going to give you the advice you need to win your leagues. Unfortunately today, you guys, you're stuck with me, the Grand Poobah, so temper your expectations.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Well, thank God we got some real fantasy experts here. We got somebody just like all of you out there, except much, much richer. Money Max, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. I wish that rich part was true. It'd be pretty ideal right now.
And we got our Matthew McConaughey look-alike. I'm telling you, you guys, close your eyes. You just listen, hang out. You can hear him driving a Buick right now. Trust me when I tell you this. He looks just like him. Lucas, how's it going, Lucas?
It's all right.
And lastly, we got our special guest, chat sports analyst, senior writer for Gridiron Experts, one of the hardest working men in the business, and most importantly, a Bay Area, California native. What's up? It's Mitchell Renz.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm actually not from California. From central Pennsylvania, but I do run the Raiders show here at Chat Sports, and yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. Like I said, I'm the senior writer here at Chat Sports, writer at Gridiron Experts, and a featured writer at Fantasy Pros, and just trying to pump out as much content as possible. I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry, so you got to stick out in some way. If anybody's going to come to Dallas, because that's where I work right now at Chat for the Fantasy Football Convention, you guys can use my promo code Renz365. Save yourself $25.
Very cool. And Chat Sports, that's the app you work at. They got over 3,000 different sources that give you information, is what I read on it.
Yeah, no, Chat Sports, we're huge. So essentially, we are ESPN of Facebook. We do a lot of live digital coverage. So between all of our Facebook pages, we're at, I'm going to say, like 3 million on Facebook. And then right now, we are one of the fastest growing YouTube pages. We get about 1,000 subscribers every week. And we are just kind of growing in a bunch of different digital platforms, like I said, such as YouTube, Facebook. I'm kind of a Twitter guy. We're starting to up our Instagram game a little bit. So Chat Sports is going to be a company that you're going to hear about. And I'm going to say 2 years, we're going to be pretty big.
Cool.
I believe it. Adam, real quick, why don't I have a promo code to anything?
Well, when I get one, you're going to get one too, man.
I appreciate it.
Hey, speaking of things you can get, Fantasy Tees, isn't that also something you're behind?
Yeah, so I also help a guy named Mike Riggs, so I also help do my own podcast, the Empire Fantasy Podcast, part of Gridiron Experts, and fantasyfootballtshirts.com. I'm just kind of, I'll say I'm more like the model, and I do some of the digital marketing there, but the real man behind that website his name is Mike Riggs. So if you guys want t-shirts, they got a lot of awesome ones. Again, fantasyfootballtshirts.com. And I do help run an Instagram page if you guys want to check that out, Fantasy Football State of Mind. We're about 34,000 on there. So I do some live videos about once a week on that.
Cool. I like the sleeper tank top you guys got.
Oh, yeah, actually, that one's really clean. I actually like the PBR one, points per reception. It just looks like PBR beer. Not a huge fan of PBR beer. I'm kind of more the craft beer guy, but at the same time, I don't know if anything's worse than Milwaukee's Best. So.
Well, speaking of things, hey, Professor Chris said that he'll be back in a week or maybe a couple weeks, but Professor Chris will be back. Max, you know what math professor, Professor Chris's favorite dessert is?
I don't know, students' tears?
It's pie.
Oh, shit. I should have thought of that.
You get it? Pie?
No, I get that.
And Mitchell, hey, I heard a story about you and blueberry pie. I heard that you were a big fan.
Yeah, so I can eat a lot of food, guys. So yeah, straight up, if anybody's in Dallas or anywhere around me, you guys want to challenge me to an eating contest? I've actually never lost. So I did a pie eating contest in college. And I won that. And I did a wing eating contest with some guys from Roto Street Journal. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I put down like 70 wings in like an hour. So if you guys wanna eat, you let me know.
All right. Let's get into it this week, guys. Let's get into the news and notes and what's happening around the league. I don't think I said he'd be back. And then if you could put that in the most important thing, I think the number one thing to talk about this week is something that came out of Washington, D.C. The U.S. Supreme Court rules gambling on fantasy sports. I think we're good. Legal. Thank you so much. I kind of wanted to get your guys' take on that. What do you think, Lucas?
I'm excited. Obviously being here in Texas, we have to wait for our legislature to allow a few other things to happen. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think if they're halfway intelligent that they're going to allow sports betting to happen.
How about you, Max?
I think I'm going to try to live and die by my name, Money Max. I want to put some money on the line. So if people want to donate to me, I'll give you my PayPal information, and I'll try to double my money off your donations.
Yeah, I'll take you up. I'll take you up on that. No, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And like, I just moved down here to Texas as well. Unfortunately, I can't use DraftKings yet, but I think it's a huge step. It definitely helps me keep my job. That's for sure.
Well, the American Gaming Association, they said that there's going to be $10 billion, or there was $10 billion this year that was gambled on just the NCAA tournament, and just 3% of those bets were legal through Nevada. So can you imagine just how much money is going to go through for the Super Bowl? My goodness.
Is DraftKings or, like, what's the other one, FanDuel, like a public entity? Can you buy stock?
I don't know.
Can I pad my wallet right now?
No, I don't think that they're publicly traded.
This is ridiculous. We need to fix that.
All right, well, getting on to league news. Panthers release wide receiver Russell Shepard. Does this mean anything? Mitchell, I'll start with you.
I'll say no, even though I do have him in one of my dynasty leagues, part of the Gridiron Experts League, but I don't know. I mean, I've never really been a big fan of Russell Shepard, and probably why I didn't do so well last year. So, no, I'll be honest, I don't really care about Russell Shepard at this point.
I have a tendency to agree. I don't think that he was really making any waves. They have Torrey Smith there now, and I still think Devin Funchess is a pretty decent wide receiver, so I don't think it really makes much of a difference.
I'm assuming you're going to ask me next, and I'm just going to say I don't care. Like, I really don't. Yep. I don't like any of the Carolina Panthers receivers. If you're stuck with Devin Funchess, I hope he's your wide receiver 3, but he's probably the best of the bunch.
All right. Well, how about this next piece of news? Andrew Luck yet to throw a football.
I mean, does it really surprise anybody? I mean, if you're smart, you stayed away from him going into last season, and throughout the season, I mean, there was just never any good news. There was never really anything that came out. They said, "Oh, he starts throwing again," and then all of a sudden his shoulder is hurting and giving him pain, and he says it doesn't feel comfortable. He needs more opinions. He could be done. I mean, he that he's coming back? I agree.
No, fake news. He's hurt. I said this the last show I was on, which was many moons ago, probably at least a month. I don't think he's hurt anymore. I think physically he's fine. I think, one, he's either faking it because his O-line is still god-awful, and he doesn't want to ruin the rest of his career by getting beat up next season, like he's been beat up at the beginning of his career, obviously. And it could just be a mental block. His coach said he was fine, like week 15. He just didn't want to play.
I think his offensive line isn't as bad as what it's been in the past, though. I mean, I'm a huge believer in Quentin Nelson. I don't know if you guys know Quentin Nelson's nickname. I think he has the greatest nickname in football right now. They used to call him in college Earl Grey because he used to just lay people out and basically just teabag them. So, I just think that's, the best nickname in football right now. But I am a believer in Quentin Nelson, and they actually made some pretty good moves, I think, this offseason or in the draft for the offensive line. So I don't think it's going to be as historically bad as what it's been. I still think, though, it could be one of the better lines maybe in 3 years down the road, but that's still a little ways away. I don't even know if Luck will make it by then, but I'm just a big believer in Luck's talent. However, the quarterback position's so deep right now. I don't know if I can trust a guy like Luck.
Well, we're going to get into Luck a little bit more when we get into our next segment, but there is the EVP, Stephen Jones, talking about how he wants to get Tavon Austin 12 to 24 touches per game. What do we think about the EVP, Stephen Jones? Max?
I don't even know he knows what he's thinking at this point. Let's wait to see what happens in preseason. Tavon Austin, I'm not too hyped for, but at the same time, we have a real expert here. I'm just good at fantasy football.
Yeah, I'm down here in Dallas, and I'm not a big believer in Tavon Austin. I understand like they got rid of a guy like Ryan Switzer. However, am I really going to be confident in Tavon Austin and Linehan and being able to create plays for him? No, I'm not.
Situational usage, I don't think he's going to have much fantasy relevance except for possibly in daily sports. He might have a couple weeks that he pops off. But aside from that, I don't know that I would have too much expectation. I don't have much of an expectation for him as a wide receiver. And I like Dak, but he is not that much of a pocket passer yet. So I don't see much of a connection between the two of them coming to fruition to make anything that really matters.
All right. Well, speaking of people that really matter, Adrian Peterson has said that he is fully healthy and ready to go, guys. AP all day. Are we back on the all day train? What do you think?
All day where? Like, where is he going all day? He had Arizona to himself and blew it. The Saints, I mean, come on. He was surrounded by two. No one knew Kamara was going to be that amazing. Like, he was fantastic. And Ingram was a great running back. I don't even know why they signed AP. But with Ingram out, he's talking about going back to the Saints, which I could see him working there. But he's not an all-day running back. He hasn't been a main stable running back in like 4 years. I just don't see it. I mean, he can hype himself up, I guess. Let's bring Chad Johnson back first.
What do you think, Mitch?
No, I mean, I don't even think we should even waste time on a guy like AP at this point. Like, he's kind of washed up, and I think we saw that a little bit last year. Sure, he had a good game here and there, but Adrian Peterson's not going to help me in fantasy football this year. I can almost guarantee that.
No, I think we're in agreement. He's, he is getting older. He's kind of hit that plateau, and just watching him, I'm a big advocate of the eye test, and he just doesn't look like he once did. He's a shell of what he was, and he's lost his step. He's not as fast. Like he's not able to get up to full speed and meet guys, and he's not an angry. Like, he used to just run so angry that guys would be afraid for that contact, and he would lay into them, and he would pop them as hard as he could and kind of smile at them when he got up. And he just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that fire anymore.
Well, not only that, but to waste more time on Adrian Peterson, his last two productive seasons, if you actually follow the stat line, he would go 19 for 120 and a touchdown, but his longest run would be for 70 yards and a score. So he actually wasn't productive. He just had one play every game that helped him out because they would feed him the ball until he got it. Adrian Peterson hasn't been Adrian Peterson in a long time. And now I think the ship has sailed.
Well, there's somebody else who the ship sailed for. Fozzie Whitaker tore his Waka Waka on a season-ending injury. He's on IR for the rest of the season. Was he relevant to you at all? Does it make a difference to anybody? Does it help anybody, hurt anybody?
I think that's why maybe they went out and got a guy like C.J. Anderson. I think C.J. Anderson's an interesting guy, and I think just because we're going to have to keep tabs on him, because last season the Panthers ran the ball 490 times, which is, I believe, top 10 in the league. And then, Christian McCaffrey has yet to be able to prove to me that he's a between the tackles kind of runner. And you look at C.J. Anderson, I feel like he's kind of got this bad MO about him. But, he had over 1,000 yards last year on a pretty, I'll say, below-average offense with the Broncos, and now the Panthers, I think him and Cam are going to be able to mesh pretty well, and I understand they have a guy like Christian McCaffrey there, but he's still probably going to be the pass catcher. And C.J. Anderson to me is a really, really sneaky guy because I think he can do everything kind of average. So I made the comparison to him. He's kind of like Mario in a sense of Nintendo 64 games, where he might not do anything really, really well, but he does, I think, everything kind of average. He can catch the ball, he can run, and he just kind of brings that toughness once in a while. So I think C.J. Anderson's a sneaky sleeper for the upcoming season because he's running back 35 or 36 in the rankings. So I think a guy who just rushed for 1,000 yards now on a better team, he's piquing my interest at least a little bit.
I think that was well said. I think that he's in a good position. I don't think that there's anyone there to take the between the tackles running. Christian McCaffrey is okay in space, and he does have decent hands, so he's not going to go away. So I don't see C.J. Anderson getting 300, maybe he gets close to 300 touches, but I think it's likely that he could hit the 800, 900, maybe break 1,000 yards rushing. I think all purpose CJ will be a 1,000-yard player, but I'm not expecting him to bust 1,400 yards on the ground or anything like that. I don't expect him to be an RB1 this season, but could be a pretty steady RB2 for you.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you, Max?
I would love to ramble, but it's all been said. So I think we can move on. C.J. Anderson will be useful. I do like him. Just another Jonathan Stewart.
Well, we can move on to my favorite piece of news of the week. Redskins coach Jay Gruden said second round Darius Geis is more of a first and second round banger. What do you think of this banger?
So I just talked about Geis a little bit, recently on a podcast that I did, and I understand he's probably going to be the 1 and 2 down guy because Chris Thompson, let's not forget, Chris Thompson was legit an RB1, I believe in standard and definitely in PPR before he got hurt last year. This guy was coming out, and I think he was probably the best receiver that the Redskins had. And now you got a guy like Alex Smith who's an absolute check down artist, and I think he's going to check it down to a guy like Chris Thompson a lot. But I like Geis. I think Geis was the second best running back entering the draft, and I think when some of the reports that we got here at Chat Sports was not that teams were worried about his NFL ability, but people were worried about how much he loved football. I heard from one NFL executive that he wanted to play Fortnite more than he wanted to play football, which I don't know. That kind of scares me a little bit, but when I look at it just from a talent standpoint, it reminds me a lot of the situation we dealt with last year with Dalvin Cook, where Dalvin Cook didn't have the best NFL combine, and I don't know, he was dealing with some off the field issues, and he was just, people were worried about him, and it's why he didn't go in the first round, and it's why he fell to the Vikings. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Darius Geis. You watch Darius Geis' 2016 tape, he was better than Leonard Fournette. He averaged, I believe, 7.8 yards per carry, and then, his senior year, or his past year, he averaged only 5.9, but kind of battled some injuries. I do some NFL blind comparison articles for Fantasy Pros, and the running backs who I compared him to, I think he's a little bit of a mix of a guy like Marshawn Lynch coming out of college. He's going to punish you. But then he also has the skill set of a guy like Ryan Matthews. And sure, Ryan Matthews might not have panned out in the NFL, but coming out of Fresno, Ryan Matthews is actually a pretty good all-around running back. He just dealt with a lot of injury issues. And I think if Geis can stay healthy, I like Geis. I like him a lot from a talent standpoint.
How about you, Max?
I think what you said is perfect, Mitch. Thompson, I absolutely love, especially in PPR. Loved him last year. The dude's a stud. I wish they actually kind of just made him a premier back, kind of what I want the Lions to do with Riddick. The Redskins shuffle through running back so much, I don't know if he'll stick there, but the talent is there, so hopefully he'll work out. I like it.
Lucas?
I like Geis decently, but if Chris Thompson is even close to what he was last season. I mean, Chris Thompson, he was a top 6 running back until he got hurt. For sure, top 8, but if not top 6, he was probably the sneakiest running back of all last season, aside from maybe Kamara and Dalvin Cook. But Dalvin Cook wasn't really back. Chris Thompson was a monster, so I'm not sure how much room and how many touches from a talent standpoint I like him, but I'm just leery of all the different people in that backfield that are going to be vying for touches.
All right. Well, that's all we got for the news. But I do have a question for you, Lucas. If you saw Tom Brady riding a camel in a picture, you know how many animals you would see in that picture?
I have no clue.
It's 2. You'd see 2 animals.
What animals would you see? That's right.
Camel.
That's right. A camel and the goat, Tom Brady. Our next segment is something I want to call Goat versus Dumpster Fire. All right, this is the way this is going to work. I'm going to give you guys the names of 2 players, and using these incredibly accurate rankings here, I want you to tell me, is this player the GOAT for the next season, the 2018 season, or is this player a dumpster fire? I don't want to be like IHOP, no waffling. Who's the GOAT? Who's the dumpster fire? I'm going to start with you, Lucas. I'm going to give you 2 guys. Which one is which? You ready?
Okay.
Ezekiel Elliott and Le'Veon Bell. Who's the GOAT and who's the dumpster fire?
Wow, that's tough. Are we just talking in general? Are we talking standard PPR? Give me a little more here. I got to go Zeke. Zeke is the GOAT. Just feed him the ball. Le'Veon, I don't think he plays a full season. He finds a way, whether it's suspension or getting injured or something. He has not been on the field for every single game yet. I do love both of these guys, though.
So I can quote you. Hey, no waffling, man. I can quote you that Le'Veon Bell is a dumpster fire this season.
Yeah, is that what you want to put? Those are the words you want to put in my mouth right now. I at
at an off-season show, though, I did catch some flack because I had Zeke above Le'Veon Bell. There's some people that weren't too happy about that.
Yeah, it's because you're a homer.
Hey, I mean, Zeke's the only running back last year who averaged over 90 yards rushing. He averaged 98.3 yards rushing last season. And, I mean, a guy like Todd Gurley averaged 87. Shout out to Zeke. He actually retweeted my tweet the other day, so I'll give Zeke some love.
There you go.
Nice. Well, you guys are both homers. You guys are both in Texas. Now, you're not in Dallas, Lucas, but you're close by, right?
Yeah, I'm down in Austin. Texas is a big place. But, I have family up in Dallas, so I'm going to be up there for the convention. That should be pretty fun.
Yeah.
We'll grab a drink. We got kegs here at Chat Sports, so free beer on me.
Hey, all right. I'll have to come check it out.
Nice. Well, I have heard some of your shows on Chat Sports, Mitchell, so I have a dumpster fire versus GOAT question for you as well. I know that you're a big fan of Doug Baldwin, so Doug Baldwin or A.J. Green, who's the GOAT? Who's the dumpster fire?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'll say the GOAT is A.J. Green, and I'll say the dumpster fire is Doug Baldwin, and that's tough for me to say, but I just think A.J. Green is the superior talent, and I'll go with superior talent because I don't know what the Seahawks are doing this season, so I'm going to stick with A.J. Green.
Dude, what are they doing the last 3 seasons? I'm a Seahawks fan, and I cannot figure out what that front office is doing.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it the other day, actually, we have a college football show, and we were like, remember when Pete Carroll first started at USC? They were like a dynasty. And then they just kind of fell off the cliff slowly because people kind of figured out what they were doing. And I think it's exactly what happened in Seattle. They got really lucky in the beginning. Pete kind of came into a good system. They built something up really good, and now it has just been a slow decline, and it's not getting pretty. That defense might be, I'll say, bottom 10 in the league. And then that offensive line, they didn't do a lot to improve it, and I'm not a Rashad Penny believer. So
we can be best friends. I hate their offensive line, and Adam can agree. I say this every season. I would love if Seattle just wasted all of their picks in the draft on O-linemen. Just O-linemen. Just do that.
Protect
Give Russell Wilson.
It gets me so angry because last year, Russell Wilson scored all but 1 touchdown that the Seahawks had. I mean, he led the team in rushing. He had 4 rushing touchdowns. The only guy not named Russell Wilson that contributed to any touchdown for the Seahawks, J.D. McKissick on like a 30-yard touchdown scamper. So Russell Wilson last year, in my opinion, was the MVP just because of how important he was to the team. He is the definition of what MVP is.
He's unbelievable. And the fact that they let Jimmy Graham walk when they have so much money, it just, I can't, Adam. Just sorry. Continue.
Sorry. All right, well, I do have one for you, Max, specifically for you. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about you when I came up with this. So who is the GOAT and who is the dumpster fire? Kenyon Drake or Jay Ajayi?
Oh. Well, I think Miami's the dumpster fire. So I'm going to go with Jay Ajayi just because I don't think either are good next year or great. I think Ajayi will split time. I don't like Drake. Yeah, so it's flip a coin, I guess.
That's quite the separation between GOAT and dumpster fire to say flip a coin.
I mean, it's kind of like if you were like, oh, who's the GOAT, Montana or Brady? It's kind of like, well, depends on who you talk to, I guess. But this one's like, who's the trash?
Oh, I was about to say, are you comparing Jay Ajayi to Montana or Brady? Which one is he closest to?
I personally believe Brady's the greatest of all time. Personally, I know there's a lot of people out there who are going to leave bad reviews, but just make sure they're 5-star because I'll read them if they're 5-star and then talk shit. But I think Ajayi will be more productive. I think he's the better talent. I just think the Eagles have tons of talent. He'll get lost in the mix.
All right. So through that whole answer, I still have no idea which one's the GOAT.
Ajayi. I said Ajayi. Just
okay, Ajayi. All right. Next up, Lucas. Here I got these 2 guys for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen. Which one's the GOAT? Which one's the dumpster fire?
I thought you were going to give me something hard. Keenan Allen is the GOAT, and Devontae Adams is the dumpster fire.
Oh, are we all sure about this across the board? We sure?
110%. No question in my mind. I will put some serious cash down right now.
I'm seeing them drafted before. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing people say Aaron Rodgers, the number 1 quarterback in fantasy, number 1 receiver. How do you not value that?
Because Keenan Allen is that much better than Devontae Adams.
All right. Well, if it's that simple, then Mitchell, I got the last one for you, and this one should just be no problem. Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers.
Oh, yeah. This is easy for me. This is no doubt dumpster fire for Luck, and then I'll take Phillip Rivers as the GOAT. Top 12 quarterback. Top 12 quarterback in fantasy. Gets slept on every year, and he ends up on all my teams every single year.
So he's like top 12 for like the first 5 weeks?
No, I'm pretty sure for the entire season. I mean, he's thrown for like 30 touchdowns, like pretty consistently.
Well, I mean, I do like Rivers. I agree with you. Luckwood's not going to play, but Rivers, this isn't a Jai Drake situation.
Is it?
I feel like Rivers. I feel like right now though, like when you look at just like the quarterbacks, like in general, why take the risk on a guy like Luck when you can just get so much balance and just play it safe with a guy like Rivers?
I would 100% agree.
Get him much later.
Adam, where's my second question?
Sorry, man. You're just not important enough. You're actually. We have to move on to the next section.
I'm America's sweetheart.
You'll like. It's called the bottom 5, and I'm talking about players that did not let anybody convince them that failure was not an option. Players that did as well as I did at organic chemistry. I'm talking about the 5 players that have dropped the most this season in your guys' eyes. Who do you say to yourself, he won't be on any of my teams because somebody else is going to take him too high? And Max, being that you bitched the most, I'll go with you.
All right, well, bitching's kind of like my thing. So I'm going to get started just by saying the Miami Dolphins organization. Just going to throw that out there. I want no part of Miami now that Landry's gone. Nothing there interests me, not even Gore. The dude's a million years old. I'm sure he'll be a great RB3 for someone, which will be super annoying to me when I lose because he scores a 1-yard touchdown off 2 carries. But besides that, Miami Dolphins, I do not like anyone on their team. My second one is Russell Wilson. I do not know what Seattle's doing. Their O-line is still terrible. They just blew up their entire defense, apparently for cap room, let Jimmy Graham walk. They've signed nothing but clones of Tyler Lockett, who is very ineffective for them. Doug Baldwin is the only option they have to throw to. And unless they lock down a running back I can get behind, and possibly Dez Bryant, nothing there impresses me. My third one is going to be Lamar Miller. With Watson back, it's going to be a gun show. Miller's been letting us down year after year. I've been a huge Lamar Miller supporter. It breaks my heart to say this, but going into next season, I'm not going to be drafting him. And I'm sure he'll go within the first 5 rounds, probably around 4, 5, or 6. I just won't reach. I'd rather grab a Jai and hope. Then I'm going to look at Zach Ertz. Ertz is an unbelievable talent. Eagles just drafted another tight end, a talented tight end in Dallas. I don't know if I will pay the price to get Ertz when he's probably going to go 2nd or 3rd round, depending on the league you're in, when I can just plug and play and find talent lower, where I can grab Hunter Henry, let's say, in round 8. I'd rather have that than spend the premium on Ertz, just because I don't think he'll return the value. And for the 5th one, these are always hard for me this early in the offseason. Well, not even, it's off-season, but like before I can see how teams really develop. Josh Gordon. He's the one to me. I like the Browns going into the season. They just loaded themselves up with some great talent. Landry, Coleman, Gordon, Njoku. Is that how you said the tight end's name?
Yep.
I think Gordon might be lost in the mix. We know he's had front-end issues with the Browns. This could be, them kind of weeding him out. They built a fantastic team. They could be giving more work to the young guy in Coleman. Landry's the new toy. He's someone who I think should be a 3rd-round value. Maybe not in PPR this year, but the talent is there, but I wouldn't spend that on him. So if he fell to me in the 7th or 8th, I'd probably grab him. But where I see he's going in mocks I've done, I don't like it. But like I said, this is off-season. It's still extremely early, so all of these picks could change, but that's what I got. Except for Miami. Miami's not changing.
How about you, Lucas? Who makes you cry?
Well, first I just have to say a few things to Max. You're nuts. Ertz is a monster. He's going to have another big season. Josh Gordon is going to have a big season. He didn't do anything. He had no expectations last season. Hardly did anything. The only place he has to go is up. And as soon as Baker Mayfield gets on the field and is slinging the rock, Josh he's going to put up some numbers again. And moving on to my guys that I'm staying away from, Frank Gore. I'm staying away from Frank Gore. Kenyon Drake's the man there. He's the one that's going to be getting touches and doing work. Frank Gore will not touch his numbers that he did last season of close to 1,000 yards. I'd be surprised if Frank Gore gets 600. This is kind of a combo pack here for the New York Giants backfield. Orleans Darkwa and J. Stu, they're both way down the list for me. Darkwa had 750 yards-ish last season. J. Stu had 680. With Barkley there, I'd be surprised if the two of them combine, if J. Stu and Dark would combine for 1,000 yards rushing. Barkley's the man. Tyrod Taylor, I like Tyrod enough, but I don't think that we see him all season. I think Baker ends up on the field at some point. So I'd stay away from Tyrod. Here's another one is Jordy Nelson. That wide receiver core I like quite a bit between Jordy, Marty, and Amari. But if I have to pick one of them, I think Jordy Nelson is going to have the most trouble there. And, I hope I'm wrong, but I think that Martavis Bryant is a beast. I think Amari Cooper will do better than catching 50% of his balls. And the other one is Dez. Like, you're just kind of dead to me, Dez. He still had over 800 yards, which a lot of people thought that he did a lot worse than that. But I think, is this right? Did Dez really have 133 targets last season and only caught 69 of them? Because
quarterback is terrible.
I mean, you can say that, but it wasn't all on Dak. Dez just looked lazy, and he didn't look like he was trying. Dez he's not that fast of a wide receiver. His thing is going up and winning 50-50 balls. And what he did give was effort, and that's what made him so good. He was not going up and winning these balls that he has in the past. So those are my five. And if you really want a sleeper, if you want to wait on tight end, Max, I think Hunter Henry's going to go earlier than what you think. If you really want a sleeper tight end that's going to put up numbers this season, his name is Trey Burton.
I forgot about Burton, but Dak Prescott is trash without Ezekiel Elliott. So stop being a homer. We need to get you a horn.
Cool.
We'll see. We'll see.
I can go into my five. I kind of got six as well. So I'll start with the quarterback position. We talked about him a lot here on the show as Andrew Luck. We've kind of just gone over why we wouldn't do it. I mean, he hasn't thrown a football. I believe it's like 503 straight days now. There's actually a counter on Google that you can look up. Check that out. It's like an Andrew Luck I haven't thrown in counter, so that's pretty incredible. And then you just look at the Colts wide receivers. I mean, they have T.Y. Hilton, which is great, but then besides that, they have Ryan Grant, Chester Rogers, K.J. Brent, Deion Kane, like a bunch of no-name guys. And then, sure, the offensive line I still think is a question mark. Jack Baby Hands Doyle is, I think, okay as a tight end. Eric Ebron, he's got some sort of upside, maybe. I understand he's 24, but not sold on him. And then the running backs, Marlon Mack, Naheem Hines, Jordan Wilkins, no. Like, there's this Colts team, I think, without Andrew Luck is easily the worst team in the NFL. So I'm not going to take a guy who's going to go high in drafts because his name's Andrew Luck. I'm going to wait on a guy like a Matt Ryan or like a Phillip Rivers who I can get as my QB, who's ranked right now as QB like 14, 15, who's just going to slide down the board because they're an old veteran, and that's fine with me. I'll build up around other positions. A tight end who I think is right now kind of interesting is a guy like Evan Ingram. So Evan Ingram last year, 64 catches, 722 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He became the fourth tight end in the last 18 years to have over 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. So why don't I love this guy? I get it. I think he's a talented guy, and I would argue he might not even be a tight end. But this is the thing. So like when you add a guy like Saquon Barkley, to me, you're going to run the football more. And then Odell Beckham for a full season, Sterling Shepard entering the third year, which is the breakout year. Is he going to be on the field as much? Is he going to get as many targets? I don't know, because if you're telling me right now, okay, Evan Ingram, let's say, is a top 5 tight end. Let's say Odell Beckham's a top 3 wide receiver. Saquon Barkley, let's say, is a top 10 running back. Sterling Shepard, what, wide receiver 3? What the hell does that make Eli Manning? I don't know. I mean, I personally still don't think Eli Manning is going to be a top 10 quarterback. This Giants team has a lot of mouths to feed, and I don't know if Evan Ingram is going to get fed as much because they do have a lot of pieces there. And when I see a guy like Evan Ingram, I did a draft go over a guy like Hunter Henry. That blows my mind to me. Like, I'll take Hunter Henry over a guy like Evan Ingram. So I think for that reason, Evan Ingram's a little bit low for me. You guys are talking up Josh Gordon. Not really sure why. I'm not a big fan of Gordon over his last 10 games. 42 catches. That's a catch. He's got a catch rate of 48%. I understand the quarterback play hasn't been all that great, but he's got 1 touchdown in the last 10 games. This is a guy who apparently has elite talent, but over that sample size, if you take his last 10 games and make that sample size a full 16-game season, it's 67 catches for 1,000 yards. That's not where he's being drafted right now. And sure, Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback there and Baker Mayfield's there. Are we really sure Baker Mayfield is going to be able to excel right away? Baker was my number 1 quarterback coming out of college, and sure, he was a Heisman finalist for 3 straight years, which is incredible, but I'm still not totally sold that Josh Gordon's going to get fed. And then we might as well just go to the other Browns wide receiver, Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry, 400 catches in his first 4 years in the NFL. He's the only receiver to ever hit the 400 mark in his first 4 years. Jarvis Landry's been an absolute target monster. However, again, Tyrod Taylor. He's never had over 3,100 passing yards in his career. He's only produced one receiver to ever have 60 catches, which was Sammy Watkins. Also, he's only ever produced one wide receiver to have 1,000 yards. The Bills did not throw the ball as much, but Tyrod's going to get his 450 yards rushing. They're not going to throw it a lot. And then when you add it into the equation, Duke Johnson, 74 catches last year. Carlos Hyde, 58 catches last year. Corey Coleman, let's not forget he was a first-round draft pick. David Njoku. Tyrod Taylor loved to lean on a guy like Charles Clay. Maybe he leans on a guy like David Njoku. This Browns team, I can't even believe I'm saying it, has a lot of pieces, and yet we're still drafting Jarvis and Josh Gordon like they're both going to be at least wide receiver 2s. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't think there's not enough balls to go around, and even if Baker wants to sling it like he did at Oklahoma, which I'm telling you it's not going to happen in his first year, I just don't know if I can trust it. And then we'll go to some running backs. So I think an interesting running back to look at this year is a guy like LaShawn McCoy. I think he's going a little bit too high because, this guy's at 2,662 touches. That's some serious work on your body. And I think when you go back and you look at LaShawn McCoy in his good years and his bad years. So LaShawn McCoy, right, since 2013, with quarterbacks who are not mobile, he averages only 4.3 yards per carry and about 0.43 touchdowns a game. With mobile quarterbacks, he averages 4.8 yards per carry and about 0.62 touchdowns per game. If you take those kind of numbers, because right now they have Josh Allen, who I was not sold on. I think he's Kyle Bowler 2.0. And then, okay, let's say if he doesn't start, and then they say go with a guy like A.J. McCarron. Buffalo Bills right now are not a very good team. I think LaShawn McCoy is going to have a huge dip in production because, teams are going to crowd the box because they don't have anybody that can beat them because they don't really trust the quarterback. So LaShawn McCoy is a guy for me, definitely, who's moving down my list because running back's pretty deep right now with a lot of young talent. And last, but certainly not least, is a guy who I'm writing about right now for Fantasy Pros is Kenyon Drake. I don't get the hype. I understand he was solid, and if anybody's listening, if you're in a dynasty league right now, sell high on Kenyon Drake and sell him that this guy was the leading rusher over the last 5 weeks of the season with 444 rushing yards. I get it. He looked good for the last 5 weeks, but that doesn't always translate to being a great running back. And I know we're kind of counting out Frank Gore a little bit, but think about this stat. Frank Gore has had 1,200 yards of scrimmage every single season since 2005. Every year since 2005, Frank Gore, 1,200 yards from scrimmage. They brought in guys like Frank Gore. They brought in a guy like DeMarco Murray for a visit. For some reason, the Dolphins do not trust a running back who I think is clearly better. Kenyon Drake is clearly better than Frank Gore and a guy like DeMarco Murray. But we saw with a guy like Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller was clearly the better running back in Miami. Didn't give him the work that he was going to get. Kenyon Drake going out through college, he was always kind of banged up a little bit. He had a bad broken leg. I don't think that's going to happen again, but this is a guy who's battled just all around some injuries. Then you look at that offensive line, that team in general. It's an absolute dumpster fire. Absolute dumpster fire. And can Kenyon Drake handle a heavy workload? Last season in the fourth quarter, he averaged only 3.4 yards per carry. And then when he got carries above 20 in a single game, so from carries like 20 to 30, he averaged only 2.5 yards per carry. Maybe he came out strong in those first 5 weeks because, he was fresh. Everybody else in the defenses was not. So I'm not quite the biggest believer in Kenyon Drake, just simply because I think he's on a bad team, bad offensive line, and I don't know if he can handle a full workload for 16 games. So sell high on Kenyon Drake.
I think we just became best friends.
High five.
But I will say, Tyrod Taylor, show my man some love. The Bills are terrible.
Yep. No, I think if Tyrod plays full 16, he'll be a top 12 quarterback.
He's been with the talent around him. Because a friend of mine made the same argument. Our lovely Twitter person John, he runs our Twitter during the season, gives everyone the live updates. He was talking to you about Tyrod, saying he's very overrated, he's not that good. And I'm like, could you just look at the Bills for 2 seconds? I know everyone hates the Ryans, but they built a good team there. Then they were fired. Then the team got blown up. And it's just one of those things where it's like Tyrod's one of those players, and it happens to a few of them, that never get a fair shot. And I feel like Tyrod finally got the starting job on a team, but never actually got a fair shot because the team wasn't good. And when your best receiver is Sammy Watkins, who's a broken bone, the dude's a joke. Robert Woods was asleep until he went to the Rams. It's just, I look at Tyrod Taylor, I look at the talent around him, and it's real talent with the Browns. I don't see him losing his starting job. The dude's a veteran. The dude gets it done. And I was so happy to see the Browns make these moves this offseason. I almost wanted to be a Browns fan. But then I realized they were the Browns, and I decided not to be.
One rebut I will have real quick is with Frank, the Kenyon Drake and the Frank Gore down in Miami. Who else do they have? They traded away Ajayi, so who do they have backing him up? Frank Gore, what are they paying him? $1 million? I mean, that's just to have the veteran leadership in there, and just in case Kenyon Drake were to go down, it's good to have a backup like Frank Gore because they literally do not have anybody else. So I think it was a smart move to grab him. And with Josh Gordon, I'm taking a lot of this based on what I think that he can be, and then hearing Casey Hayward, which I think is a pretty good corner, and he had some pretty good remarks about Josh Gordon, saying that he was one of the most difficult people to guard aside from OBJ, and I think that Gordon was one of the only, there's 2 or 3 wide receivers that put over 70 yards when being guarded by Hayward last season. So there was some positives for Gordon, and I think that he will have a pretty good season.
No, I don't doubt the talent of Gordon, and I don't really think anybody should doubt the talent of Gordon. I'm just saying there's a lot of mouths to feed for the Browns, and I believe actually Josh Gordon is ranked 7th all time in the NFL in receiving yards per game. Don't quote, it's something like that. It's like he's the 7th. So the dude is super talented. Like, I won't deny that. But again, why am I taking a guy who I think has the ceiling to be maybe where he's being drafted at right now? A bunch of mouths to feed. The quarterback carousel, we're going to probably see something like that all season. And then he's always got that off the field issue. Like, he has one little slip up. He's done. And I don't know if I want to invest all that risk in a guy who I already think is being taken pretty high. I mean, if you're telling me right now, I saw rankings like Josh Gordon as like wide receiver 13. No way. Absolutely not.
Mitch, if you listened to our shows last year, I was the Josh Gordon truther, 100%. I think I had him on every single team out there.
Yeah, you did.
If I'm saying I'm going to stay away from Josh Gordon, no one's doubting the talent that he possesses. It's the talent around him is so much better than it's ever been.
Yep.
Like, if Dez Bryant ended up on Pittsburgh, I would drop a little bit of stock of Antonio Brown. Dez Bryant's talent is fantastic. They're going to spread the ball more with Juju, Dez, and Antonio. That is never going to happen. He's not going to go there. But what I did want to say to you, Adam, Jason Witten mentioned that Dez might be going to Green Bay.
He's not.
He's not? See, I heard that too. But I read the Witten article. I think he would be the best replacement for Jordy Nelson.
I wrote an article about it today at Chat Sports, actually. So Witten came out on the Adam Schefter podcast yesterday and basically said that he believes that the Green Bay Packers are Dez Bryant's top choice. He then later goes on to say that it was just merely speculation, and if he had to guess, it would be between the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. So if you guys want to get that full story, go to chatsports.com, and if you just look up at one of our team pages, I'm sure it'll pop up. But it was just merely speculation, but I think it's an interesting pick for him to go to the Green Bay Packers. There's no doubt about that. Dez going to Green Bay, that would be interesting to me. I would actually maybe have some Dez stock.
I know I would.
I agree with that because I think Dez is better than Adams, and I think that might breathe some.
Yeah, I don't know about better than Adams, but if Aaron Rodgers can turn James Jones into a 14 touchdown guy, I think he can at least turn Dez into 10.
Well, see, I think he'd be better than Adams as far as ability of play after the catch. I think Adams is one of the better possession receivers you'll see in the NFL, and he is. But as far as making big plays, when it comes to that Hail Mary bomb you need, if Dez was on Green Bay, it'd be fantastic to see that because that's what he's there for. I think he'd be a great replacement for Jordy Nelson. He'd fill that role perfectly. At the same time, I kind of wouldn't be shocked if they made Jimmy Graham play receiver. The dude kind of just should.
He is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that the reason Jordy did so well is because of chemistry. Him and Aaron Rodgers were just in each other's heads. I don't know that Dez and Aaron would ever build that same kind of chemistry. It'd be different. But if Dez was actually trying, I think he could definitely be productive.
Now, Mitch, you say he is like that's a fact. Is he like going to be like he is like Seattle used him on every passing down, or is this something Green Bay is seriously talking about? You clearly have a more insider view than we do because we're small beans and chat's the next ESPN. So
hey. We're big beans.
We're the biggest fish in the small pond.
No, I meant like he is a wide receiver. Like I don't think he is a true tight end. I understand he's getting a little bit bigger now, but I mean, let's be real. He's never been a blocker. So I think he's always just been a wide receiver.
All right, I was making sure because that's the way I view Jimmy Graham, and that's why I was so heartbroken when Seattle was just like, all right, later, man. But yeah, on Green Bay, Jimmy Graham, I will be owning as much stock in that man as I possibly can.
Well, being that Mitch is the hardest working man in the biz, there is one question we have to ask you. We ask everybody, and that is your sleeper. Who is your sleeper for the Sleeper Wire fans?
So how about this? We'll go wide receiver. So I think one of the guys who I think is getting really slept on in Dynasty and in real life fantasy or 2018 fantasy football like redraft is Marquise Goodwin. So Marquise Goodwin is a guy who I really liked coming out of Texas. He has the fourth fastest 40 time in the NFL Combine, 4.27, legit Olympic sprint runner. Last season when Jimmy Garoppolo took over for the 49ers, Marquise Goodwin was really the guy Garoppolo leaned on. And then in those games, if you extrapolate his numbers for a 16-game sample size, and I understand I don't always like to say that because it was a 5-game sample size, but Marquise Goodwin would have finished with 131 targets, 80 catches, 1,200 yards. Only Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins had over 130 targets and over 1,200 yards. Marquise Goodwin right now is being taken outside of the top 40 wide receivers. I understand they went up and they got a guy like Pettis. I'm not a huge believer in him, and they also gave Goodwin like an extension. Sure, Garcon's going to be coming back, but Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, really leaned on a guy like Goodwin, and Goodwin's 27 years old. He's got really good talent, and he was really leaned heavily on. And at the end of the day, sure, he only scored 2 touchdowns, but I'm going to look at the targets. I'm going to look at receptions, and if those can bounce out a little bit, there's no way you can't tell me that he's going to be worse than wide receiver 40. I mean, he's right now he's borderline wide receiver 2 for me.
All right. Well, Goodwin, there it is, guys, and we're reaching about the end of the show. Now, you guys know why we do this. We do this show 100% for charity. We're trying to raise money for Lyme disease, specifically to help Rob, help him live a better life, and this is your chance to donate. You guys get to play in a league with some of the best players out there. Fantasy Takeaways, Sleeper Bot. We got Marcus Grant. We've got, last year we had Matt Harmon. Hopefully he'll be back this year. We've got, I'm missing so many people. Eat Sleep. Seeley's in. He confirmed last week. So we're going to hopefully have 40 of you players out there, and we'd love for you to get in. The way to get in is to donate $10 to Rob's GoFundMe, and you can find out all about it at sleeperwire.com/proam. So definitely give if you guys can, and you guys get to be in the best league that's out there right now. Max, can you let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find us?
All right, guys, you can find me on SleeperBot at MaxSW. You can find the whole crew on SleeperBot. Just look for the SW and our logos next to our name. We're all on Twitter except for me because I am Twitterless Max and I refuse to conform. You can also go to sleeperwire.com. That's where you can read about Rob, check out our stats, our articles, and we're on Facebook, have a fantastic group. Like I said, we're already on Twitter. So just show us some love. We're trying to get in every social media platform. So if you don't see us, just harass us with emails, leave 5-star reviews saying where we should go. Like I said, we only read the 5-star ones, so we'll check those out first. Besides that, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget to follow us on the Sleeper Wire Show is our Twitter. And if you do follow us, you guys will be able to vote on what is the best caption for Mitchell's profile picture. Because we love Mitchell's profile picture, and we have asked around our social media what should be the best caption for it. If you want to vote on that, you can get on the Sleeper Wire Show on Twitter. And Mitch, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. You can also find a bunch of the work that I do here at Chat Sports. You guys can find us on YouTube. Right now I run the #1 Raiders show on YouTube. It's called The Raiders Report. You can find out Chat Sports on YouTube right now. Like I said, we're growing about 1,000 subscriptions every week, and I basically run Twitter, Instagram, our YouTube pages here at Chat Sports. I'm the social media guy And then for a bunch of my articles for Fantasy Pros, right now I'm doing a bunch of the blind comparisons, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and then at Gridiron Experts, I'm doing a lot of the DFS stuff this year with DraftKings. So check me out there. And then, yeah, if anybody wants to hit me up on Instagram, why not? I'm trying to grow there too. But I guess I'll also say, if anybody's interested in joining the fantasy football community, it's one thing I think is amazing. I've been in the industry now only for 2 years, but I've met a lot of really cool people. If you guys see on my Twitter, it says PhD in fantasy football. That stands for passion, honesty, and determination, because I think without those three things, you're not going to accomplish a lot in life. So if anybody needs help, maybe just a foot in the door, because that's what helped me get into the industry. And you know you can do the work, and you want to break down some walls, hit me up on Twitter at MitchellRenz365, and I'll help you out.
Guys, he is also a public speaker and life coach.
That's it. He believes in the law of attraction. All right, guys. We appreciate you listening to the Sleeper Wire Show, and we will see you later.
We want to thank you for listening to the Sleeper Wire Show, the most interactive and accessible fantasy sports podcast out there right now. If you want to reach us anytime, you can join our new Facebook group. Just search for Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football Club on the Facebook groups. Join us there. Find us on the Sleeper Wire channel in the SleeperBot app. We're on the Fantasy Life app, and you can go to our webpage, sleeperwire.com. Look for the advice section. You can send us email questions we answer within 24 hours or less. Oh, and lest I forget, we do 2 live shows a week during the season, the Wednesday Mail Sack and the Sunday Morning Blitz, where we answer your questions and take your calls live on the air. So keep in touch with us all year through these ways and more, only on the Sleeper Wire Show.